This can't be happening again. For the third straight year in a row, the Edmonton Oilers were off to a start that would concern every other team in the league. But we've seen this before. In the 23-24 season, their start was so miserable they fired their head coach not even a quarter of the way through the year. Then they proceeded to go all the way to the Cup final and lose. Last year, it was the same story except they kept their head coach Chris Knoblauch, caught fire, and went all the way back to the finals, only to fall short yet again. Now, it's deja vu. A terrible start put Edmonton into a frenzy, and now they're climbing out of the hole slowly but surely. So, what's changed? Can this team go all the way back yet again, or will their issues that hurt them in the Cup final continue to be their downfall? Well, let's take a deeper look. Now, if you look at the standings, the Oilers aren't in a bad spot. One hot week, everything's fine. One losing streak, and well, the sky is falling all over again. It's like that for almost every single team in the NHL right now. But with yet another slow start, the attention went right to the usual suspects. Goaltending. Everyone in Edmonton loves to blame the goaltending, and for good reason. I mean, the first 25 games of the season, they had the lowest team save percentage since their inaugural season in 1979 and 1980. It was an .860, and just for reference, goalies looked like this at the time and just finished smoking a full pack of darts in between intermission. The goaltending hasn't been good, and we'll get to that, but it's really an extension of how poor Edmonton's defense have been. As of right now, the Oilers are in the bottom 5 in terms of 5-on-5 goals against and are a bottom 5 and 5-on-5 goal differential as well. Defending has been a challenge for the team despite having almost the identical decor to their Cup final team last year. But there has been a lot of turnover in the forward group. Now, as I've said before on this channel, defending in the NHL requires attention from all 5 players on the ice, and it's constantly happening whether or not your team has the puck. The main issue with Edmonton defensively this year seems to be a lack of cohesion. Let's start without the puck, shall we? It's these tiny little details like this that's killed them early on up the ice. Now, to be clear, the Oilers like to go into this 1-2-2 formation on the forecheck, while the F1 gives pressure, while the F2 and F3 react accordingly. With this being a 50-50 puck below the goal line, the F2 does make the right decision to jump in and keep the pressure on. Okay, that's great, but when that happens, the F3 now has to be the voice of reason or conscience of the entire team. Even though you're on the attack, this is how the defensive structure and offense are intrinsically linked. So 22 here, who's Matt Savoie, is a young player, rookie, part of all the turnover in Edmonton in that forward group that happened in the summer. He decides he's going to dive in as the F3 here. Every team wants to push the pace and be aggressive, yes, but this is a 1-1 game with 2 Oilers stuck below the goal line. Ideally, coaches want their players to read the situation, back off, and get numbers back to avoid an odd man rush. Buffalo airmails it to evade the pressure. This ends up turning into a solid 3-on-2 chance. That creates a minute of possession for Buffalo and then eventually a goal against. All with these same 5 guys on the ice, by the way, for Edmonton. That is how one tiny read can impact an entire shift for all 5 players. And when you get stuck out there after bagging your ass off in the O-zone, it doesn't matter how structured you are defensively. Eventually, you're going to get worked because when everyone's tired, they collapse to the middle of the ice and eventually end up making mistakes. I'm also not just picking on Savoie, too. It's a mentality that was required on all 4 lines in order to be a successful hockey team. Here's an instance where both Edmonton forecheckers get caught below the goal line again because Seattle's Tendy makes a solid read to play the puck and rim it on the boards. Now, McDavid as the F3 has to be responsible. Being an offensive player, he's going to make an offensive-minded read to pressure this winger on the boards. But in doing so, he gets out of the train tracks and outside the dot lanes, which are the middle of the ice, and McDavid doesn't close that gap in on time, so one bump brings Seattle on an odd man rush and creates a chance against. This is very similar to what we saw with Toronto earlier in the year with the F3s being all over the place and leading to just a highway through the middle of the ice for other teams at times. So that's some of their issues without the puck, but with the puck, they've really had trouble defending and taking care of their possessions. Again, this could be attributed to an overall disconnect between the forwards and defense on the breakouts. People were kind of getting on the coaching staff earlier in the year, citing system changes for their struggles, but Chris Knoblauch came out to the media and said the systems are the exact same he's used on 5-on-5 for the last 2 years. It makes sense. He went to back-to-back Cup finals using it, so why the hell would he change? But considering the mediocrity after 20 games, he did say they would look at altering some things. Now, the first thing is the breakout. It's clear Edmonton isn't afraid to stretch the ice against their opponents. It's what made them so deadly off the rush the previous 2 seasons against ultra-aggressive teams like Florida. Edmonton will send wingers to fly out the zone to force the attacking team's D to back up. This creates space underneath for the team breaking out to create some plays. Nothing revolutionary. A team that has been really good at executing this over the last few years were the Dallas Stars when Pete DeBoer was their coach. However, this year, the lack of cohesion and execution in this area has really hurt Edmonton early on. We see a lot of this. D goes back to get possession, and all three Oilers here just take off. There's only one Oiler in the frame here, and that's not even a support option down low to give a last-second outlet pass for the D. And so he just goes for the Hail Mary because everyone has just taken off. It leads to a complete fire drill. The chance becomes a grade A look because everyone is way up the ice. It's been an issue consistently this year between defense and forwards. Doesn't matter who you put in between the pipes. Whenever you're turning pucks over in really vulnerable positions like they do on the breakout, they're going to struggle. Of course, this lack of cohesion also hurts their biggest strength, which is their rush game. Elliot Friedman reported a wild stat on the 32 Thoughts podcast that according to Natural Stat Trick, the Oilers only had 9 5-on-5 rush attempts in their first 21 games. That is just no bueno, and it is the complete opposite of the identity of the Oilers over the last few seasons. If you look at their advanced stats from last year, the Oilers were among the best rush teams in the league. They were first in possession entries, first in possession exit percentages, and third in rush shots. However, the Oilers have adjusted in order for them to help maintain possession while moving up the ice. And it starts with keeping things a bit more conservative on the breakout with the short side winger. When they do have the puck, the short side winger will now come back and provide a support option. By doing this, it also gives them an opening for the D to get active on the far side and make their way up the ice with possession. And really, that's when this Oiler team is at their best, when they do have the puck. From there, the rush game can come alive and their offense as a whole improves. They have a top 5 offense in the league right now in terms of goals for, and top 10 when it comes to even strength goals. At the beginning of the year, Edmonton was settling for a lot of low danger shots. They led the league in 5v5 shot attempts by defensemen. But when the Oilers are cooking, they extend their possessions by frequently using these scissor routes high in the zone to create far more dangerous chances. You'll frequently see either a forward or a D swinging behind the puck carrier as a threat option if there's a confusion in coverages. Multiply that danger by 10 if one of them is Draisaitl or McDavid with the puck or swinging in behind a support. Now you can kind of see why with this style, when there's no immediate play to be made when the defenseman has the puck, they'll just opt to throw one on net from range. But the Oilers unlock their true offensive potential when they can hold on to these types of pucks, and they've been doing that as of late, which has led to more success. Then you finally have the goaltending and the trade that had most people confused. Tristan Jarry went to Edmonton for Stuart Skinner, Brett Kulak, and a second. Now, like I've said before, I think this is a lateral move for Edmonton in the cage, but it was time for the Skinner era to be over in Edmonton. Out of the 147 goalies who played 10-plus playoff games since the 05 lockout, these are Skinner's rankings in terms of save percentage. You are simply not winning a Stanley Cup with those kinds of numbers. They've seen the movie before, and they didn't believe that Skinner was going to be the guy to eventually get him over the hump. But is Jarry? It wasn't too long ago where Shanghai Jarry got his name by being sent down to the AHL to find his game. Now, with that being said, under a somewhat sturdier defensive structure and a new environment, maybe it ends up being a better fit. Or maybe not, and the Oilers end up right back at square one. One thing is for sure, though. The West has become an arms race. With teams like Dallas, Colorado, and Minnesota now loading up, Edmonton has to find a way to get over the hump while they still have the prime of McDavid's career. But the clock is ticking, and we will see whether or not this is finally the year the Oilers push through and whether this change can help Edmonton reach the top of the mountain. So, what do you think about the Oilers this season? Do you think they have a chance of going back to the Cup final and winning it? Do you think there's no way they make it through the rest of the West? Let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what you thought about the Jarry and Skinner trade as well. Drop a comment and make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single thing for the NHL season.